nervous because I'm here now.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell, and in this episode, we are going to recap and celebrate the Ravens win 34-17 over the Dallas Cowboys, moving the Ravens to 7-5 and sending the Dallas Cowboys to 3-9 in last place in the NFC East. Jimmy, it's nice doing a show after a win for a change. I mean,
Yeah,
it was not a good run.
No, I tell you what, you're in a bad spot when you're in last place in the NFC East.
Yeah.
I mean, does it get any worse than that? But no, absolutely. I'm with you. Totally different vibe going into the show. We're really excited about it. And a couple things right off the bat that we want to get into before we get too far down the road and forget about it is one of the things that we introduced in our preview show was simply a new segment that we had, Guess the Offensive Line. So we put out a challenge, competition, if you will, to all of you to guess the starting offensive line coming out in our first offensive possession. So Glenn and I were actually both wrong.
Yes.
We had two of you guys that were right. And so we want to give you guys a shout out here on the show. Daniel Kunimoto was right. And also a guy named Joshua, whose last name isn't listed on the, under his username or under his tag here in the comments, but they both got accurately guessed that Orlando Brown would be left tackle. So from left to right, Orlando Brown, Bradley Bozeman, Patrick McCarry, Ben Powers, and Tyree Phillips. Now we didn't see various combinations, especially a right tackle, but that was first offensive snap, the starting offensive line. So shout out to you guys, Daniel and Joshua. Nice work. Way to be. And we're excited to keep doing this moving forward. Maybe we'll do it with some other things and find ways to keep having these competitions. And, once we get some swag, maybe we'll start sending you guys some swag.
Well, I'm just hoping that we don't have to keep doing this particular competition, and then we can get some continuity on the offensive line. So hopefully we're not asking the same question in the weeks to come. But yeah, shout out to Daniel and Joshua. They got it. We most certainly did not. But yeah, moving on, I want to give some of the totals for the game, some of the statistics. I'm going to start with the winning team, the Ravens. Lamar Jackson goes 12 of 17 through the air for 177 yards. With 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Gus Edwards leads the backfield on the ground with 7 carries for 101 yards. Lamar Jackson has 13 carries for 94 and a touchdown. And J.K. Dobbins pitched in 11 for 71 and a touchdown. And Ingram with 6 for 28. So lots of guys pitching in effort to help the Ravens on the ground and through the air. Not a ton of guys. Marquise Brown leads the way with 5 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. And then Miles Boykin has just the 1 catch, but it's a big one, 38-yard touchdown. And then Pat Ricard pitches in 2 for 11, and then a couple other guys. And then on Dallas's side, on the offensive end, Andy Dalton throws the ball 48 times, Jimbo, completing 31 of those for 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Excuse me. Ezekiel Elliott on the ground, 18 carries for 77 yards. And then Tony Pollard pitched in 8 for 22 as a backup. And then receiving, Michael Gallup was the one that hurt the Ravens through the air, 7 catches, 86 yards, and the tough touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 46. Dalton Schultz, 4 for 44. Amari Cooper, 5 for 43, and the touchdown. Nice toe tap in the back of the end zone. It was an interesting game, Jimmy, because I didn't think Andy Dalton would throw the ball 48 times. And if he did, I thought he'd be terrorized a little more than he was. Just 1 sack for the Ravens. Not the number I was hoping for, but still a nice win. It's always nice to win the league. So it's nice to get a 34-17 win.
Yeah, doubling them up. Really glad to be able to get a quality win. Glenn, your final score, I know you got pretty close on it. Was, what did you said, 34?
13, yeah, off by a few.
34-13. I think I said 38-10. They were at 10 for a while. I was feeling all right about it. But of course, they got that touchdown in there. But either way, like you said, a win's a win. Really excited about it. There are some notes that I want to get into as
we got to start right off the break.
With Dez, right? That's where you're going.
Heartbreaking, man.
I mean, that had to be a tough one, especially for a guy that is so passionate, so energetic, so emotional, loves the game of football. He's proven that time and time. One thing anyone that says anything about Dez Bryant cannot. I mean, one thing they're not able to say is that he doesn't love the game of football. He's absolutely proven that with the way he's clawed and fought to get back in the league. And I know that it was a bummer for him. And a couple hours before the game, in initial warmups, I think 5 o'clock or around 5 o'clock or so in the evening, he was tested for COVID, and that test came back positive. So he was obviously yanked and unable to play. And I know he sent out an emotional tweet saying that he can't handle this. He's done for the season, but he's already confirmed that he was just he was
mad. He was pissed.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
And I can't blame him. I mean, I would say keep that off Twitter, but at the end of the day, he was upset. And
I felt bad for him. And it's crazy too, because when it all gets announced just a little while before the game, you can see Fox already had all this stuff set up for him. They interviewed him. They had a whole piece lined up for him. And they said, you know what? We're running this anyway. We spent a lot of money, a lot of time. We're going to run it anyway. And it made me feel worse for Dez. I mean, he seemed so genuine. He just seemed like so ready to play this game. And he mentioned how, if he would have played this game maybe a few years ago when he got with the Saints right before the Achilles injury, he may have had this more animosity towards the Cowboys. But it's a different type of Dez. He just seemed like just a different type of guy. I know he had to have been so disappointed. But the question I have for you, Jimmy, obviously the disappointment, but as far as the game and the game plan go, how much do you think a late type of, decision like this being forced upon the Ravens, how much do you think that affected the game plan when you got to consider Dez Bryant was almost certainly heavily involved in this game plan?
Yeah, I think it absolutely had an impact. How profound it was, I'm not sure, but certainly they had some packages for him that they were unable to run. And something that, you mentioned was that, a guy like Boykin getting that catch could have, that was a potentially a plug and play type scenario. But I'll tell you what, mark my words. I've said it since we signed him. I'm just waiting for that big once we squeak in the playoffs, Dez is it's going to pay off for him and for the Ravens. I feel like this partnership and the patience and the work that he's put in, it can only bring positive results. So I don't think, this is the curtain call for Dez. I think he's got a lot ahead of him this season. And I'm excited to see it. So that's definitely something, something to keep to look forward to in the future. The other thing I want to mention before, you ran through some stats. As far as health goes, we saw Ricard go into the tent and then come back in, so it looks like he cleared concussion protocol, but he was a little banged up there. And then also Humphrey got banged up, but he also came back in. But other than that, what I want to focus on here from the health was the guys that came back from COVID. So I want to focus on, the big names: Lamar Jackson, Calais Campbell, and Brandon Williams, and Mark Ingram. And so as far as COVID goes, those are the four big names I think that, and Morgan Cox. But how did you feel about those guys and their physical? How did they look to you, right? Like in their physical presence in the game?
Well, I think if I would have to point to one guy that I say didn't make as many plays as usual, would be like Calais Campbell. I saw one play where he was chasing Andy Dalton down. But outside of that, I didn't really see his name called. He's a guy that you call his name quite often. I didn't see him called. So that could also just be that Dallas really focused their efforts on stopping him and slowing him down. But it certainly looked like he didn't get his name called as much. Lamar, he had moments, he had his moments, and we're going to get more into him a little bit later. But I think he could have been
but physically, how do you think
he looked fine? Physically, he looked fine. I thought, physically, he looked absolutely fine. I didn't really see anyone. Luckily, we didn't see any cramping, any muscle injuries. We didn't see any effects of it. Looked like where they were maybe laid off for too long and then thrust back into the action. We see hammies getting pulled. We didn't see anything like that. So from a physical standpoint, I think you're right. That's a good point. That even with the lack of preparation and practice time that some of these guys face, we didn't see any of those injuries that you see from long layovers or something like that.
Right. And notably, Calais Campbell, of course, has asthma and also is the oldest, I believe, on the guys of the list that had COVID from the team. And he's obviously a large man. So I was expecting a ramp up, this to be more like a ramp up, especially for him. So I wasn't too surprised by that.
And just the fact that he was out there for as much as he was is encouraging this soon after recovering from it also.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming off the calf and just in general, not being able to do much from a cardiovascular perspective, and then to go out there and play at that size is pretty impressive. So I'm
And
glad to
talking
hear
about
that.
and talking about Lamar, I got to bring up this play, Jimmy, because fourth down, this kind of reminded me of the plays from last year, because last year it seemed like we made every big third down and short, every big fourth down and short. And not only did we make it, we made it in a big, big way. And that happened again this time, because Lamar Jackson absolutely burst through the offensive line on 4th and 2 from the 37-yard line. And just, I mean, he turned on the Jets for a split second, Jimmy, and then he turned them back off because he didn't need them anymore. He was already gone. I mean, wide open, looked like a blown coverage from a couple of guys or a miscommunication. Man, he looked fast on that one. He looked healthy on that one, didn't he?
Oh, he did, man. It's really funny because, like, when you're right, he turned them on and off like that. It was ridiculous. When it's so sometimes when you land and then the plane needs to get a little closer to the gate just to like connect to the little like runway that comes out or whatever that thing's called. He turns on the jets and you're like, whoa, and then you move, but it's only for a second.
Yep.
Like that, you're right. He went up and down. He was already celebrating at the 20-yard line.
Bozeman was celebrating before he even passed the line of scrimmage. Yeah. It was awesome.
He knew it was too late. But and I'll tell you what, man, Van Der Esch, I'm shocked at how terrible he is. At least in this game, he got cooked a couple times, got confused a couple times. He was not prepared mentally to deal with this offense. I mean, he found himself in the wrong spot by a long shot. Like,
they had quite a few blown assignments, I should say, whether that be in the secondary or, like you said, defending the run, where man, they just looked bad. They looked like, I mean, that guy Thompson for them, it seemed like every time he was in the frame, he was getting dookied on. I mean, it was bad news bears left and right for that guy and a lot of other guys, including Van Der Esch. I think you're right. One thing I wanted to point out, though, not the best moment for the Ravens this game, kind of a shocker. Justin Tucker missed a field goal, Jimmy, and he missed one from under 40, snapping an incredible streak. I think it was either 70 or 71 straight field goals under 40 yards.
I think it had been since 2012.
I mean, that is just ridiculous. So Tucker and people, I mean, look, he got jinxed like insane. Like, I mean, if you believe in jinxes, this guy got jinxed. First of all, he buries the first attempt from 31. Of course, there's a false start, pushes it back 5 yards. And then Aikman goes on to just talk about there's no more guarantee in football than Justin Tucker making a kick from under 40. I said that the Dallas coach McCarthy should just decline the false start and or whatever the penalty, and just let the field go, because there's no point. It's so automatic. And then, of course, he blows it. So, I mean, it's just hilarious. But
so luckily, I thought it was the guys on the TV the whole time. It was you,
It was my fault.
It was you.
It was my fault. Yep, it was my fault. Luckily, Greg the Legs Zerline had to one-up him or three of them. I don't know. I mean, because he just started booting field goals left, right, anything but center, having Twitter quite upset in Dallas land.
Yeah, well, he's fired. He's fired, right?
Is he fired? I don't know if he's fired this late in the season.
Like this late in the season, right?
Yeah, what who else are you gonna get, dude? You're gonna get
at the same time, they're last in the NFC East, so might as well cut it. I don't know.
Yeah, but being last in the NFC East with 3 wins, you're a 3-game win streak away from being first. Okay.
Oh my goodness. I wanted to mention a couple of things. You brought up Boykin, but let's touch for a second on Hollywood Brown. You said he got 5 targets, had the touchdown.
Well, he had 5 catches, 8 targets.
Or sorry, five catches, yeah, and the touchdown. Moments of good and bad in this game. What was your take on Hollywood?
Yeah, man. I mean, up and down game for me for Hollywood. I thought on the interception early, he did not make a good effort at the ball, threw one arm up. I don't know if he was expecting a call. He was certainly being physically harassed a bit, but that's what corners do in this league. And if you're going to be a number 1 receiver like Marquise expects and wants to be, you got to be able to fight through a little bit of hand fighting, which is about all I'd call that. And to me, he made a poor effort at a ball, batted it up in the air, and caused the interception. Now, whether that was a good decision to throw that ball to him, I mean, I doubt he would have made the first down marker. But regardless, if a ball touches your hands, Jimmy, you got to make that catch. And to me, it was the effort towards the ball. It's not even that he batted it. It's the fact that he didn't look like he gave a strong enough effort, and that really bugged me. But then later on in the game, the best play of the game offensively, Lamar Jackson makes just a phenomenal throw. Rolling out to his left, throws it across his body, a perfect dime. But that throw would be made useless if it wasn't for a fantastic catch by Hollywood, dead legging it, showing off some toe drag swag, as they say on NFL Network, and makes a beautiful catch and keeps the 2 feet in bounds. So he had moments of greatness and a moment where I was a little disappointed. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Definitely an interesting one. Hollywood, like I mentioned before in that Pittsburgh game, had such a sense of urgency. I was hoping to see that in this game, and I don't know. He's kind of falling in the middle to where, like, I think he had more of a sense of urgency, is what I'm calling it, than previous to the Pittsburgh game, but it was not at the same level, and we still need to see him up there every week. It's so interesting how psychologically the frame of mind that you have going into the game can make such a difference. And I think, he needs to get into that, that urgent mindset where every single play, every single snap, every single yard counts, right? We need it all, every single game, all the time, no matter what. So yeah, I mean, if I had to grade him, I'd give him a B. That catch was incredible. But inconsistency, or moments is the way that you put it. Inconsistency is something I want to talk about with Lamar Jackson. But before people slam Lamar, not you, but before people slam Lamar for being inconsistent, not being able to make the routine throws, things like that, I just want to remind a couple people coming off the COVID list. He's only been cleared since Sunday. On top of that, as far as the rest of the team that was healthy, 4-day turnaround. I mean, we just played last week. Well, last Wednesday. So I guess not a 4-day. What is that? A 5-day?
Yeah.
So either way, a shorter than normal turnaround. And Lamar's just coming back. But the other thing I want to mention before I get your thoughts on Lamar, because overall, at the end of the day, to me, how it looks is not as important as the overall impact that he has on the game. I don't care if it's running or throwing. The impact is what matters for me. And Lamar had an incredible impact in this game.
Of course, I mean, every game.
Absolutely, absolutely incredible. So, but the one thing I will say is that while it is not the most consistent, his throwing tonight was not the most consistent, because of the way he plays and because of our offense, we need that play to Hollywood 2 to 3 times a game. We need that throw 2 to 3 times a game, around the red zone, along with the other stuff we do so well in the offense. And I think there's only a few teams that have a chance of keeping up with us. So just to keep it in mind, we don't need Lamar to go out there and try and rip it 50 times and be exactly accurate either.
Oh no, of course not. They don't need they don't need him to throw the ball a ton, but I think what they do need is efficiency when he does throw the ball, and effectiveness. And to be honest, I thought there were moments where he did not play perfect today. That's for sure. I mean, I thought he missed Boykin in the back of the end zone. If you remember in the red zone, when they were in the red zone, he was kind of scrambling, and he not an easy throw, but a throw that a quarterback of his caliber is expected. I expect him to make that throw. I thought he was late on a throw to Hollywood over the middle that ended up being behind him, and that was a second down, I believe, forced a third down.
That one made me the most nervous.
Yes, because he was late, and it was the way he was late. He almost it was the lack of urgency. It was almost like he was just he went through his motion just too slow to me. So
it made me think of Marcus Mariota and the problem that he had with not being able to anticipate and waiting to see it. Right, that concerns me. That's the only thing I'll say from Lamar's game today. And
he's shown anticipation in the past.
He has.
So I know that it's
Great
there. It's just so, and that's like I said, he had an inconsistent game because he had that fantastic throw. He had a couple of really nice throws, and some really nice runs as well. But yeah, he missed some throws where he was late, where he just he didn't have a good base. That throw he missed Boykin over the middle on third down, where he airmailed it over the top of him. That was a bad one. That was a tough one. A throw you expect a quarterback of his caliber to make. So I expect him to get back to the basics, get back to his fundamentals, because, man, I mean, you mentioned it. We don't want him throwing 50 times, but if he throws 20, we expect him to be completing at least 17 of those. Like we expect him to be playing a very efficient level if we're not going to give him a high volume of attempts, right?
Right. No, I'm with you as well. And I said this in the preview show, this was just the appetizer. I expect Lamar and a lot of these guys to continue to ramp up as they get back, and hopefully Andrews will be back, Willie Steen will be back, he'll have more weapons.
That's a good
His
key.
security blanket and
I
Andrews.
guess we shouldn't be
And
so hard on him because, man, he was limited in his weapons this game.
yeah, his number one target and his most productive wide receiver as of late, in Willie Snead before
Yep.
the COVID pandemic or outbreak within the locker room, were off the field.
Yeah,
So,
and think about from a defensive, all they got to worry about is Marquise, really. I mean, look at who else scares you. Maybe a little bit of but Duvernay hasn't done enough to really
yeah, he's so unproven.
exact. So yeah, I
Right.
mean, we were awfully hamstrung from a passing game standpoint.
Well, let's move on to the before we go to the defensive side of the ball. I want to touch on the running backs, the running back room. And now we ran all over them. What was the final count for rushing yards today?
294.
Jeez whiz, man! I thought we were gonna break 300 in this game. I was really excited. But yeah, 294. So all the running backs had a day. I think that Gus, like you said, he was the only one that went over 107 carries, if you can believe that. But I can't do anything but give the running backs an A grade. I thought that Gus is learning how to. I mean, it must rub off in that room, but his balance has improved since JK's become a member of that team. Gus is looking good, and it's funny because I feel like JK's power has improved, which is Gus's strong suit, and I think he's getting even stronger, or maybe we're just seeing more of it. But one note that I will mention: the pregame we said what would be of Justice Hill, and got the false start, got yanked,
Got the bench. Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
Justice, your day in the sun has come and gone, I'm afraid. But and then even Mark looked good in short yardage scenarios.
Yeah.
And so I mean, what was your take on the running backs?
Man, I think it's crazy because although we only saw 7 carries from Gus, it may have been the best we've seen of Gus all year. He looked fast. He looked explosive. You mentioned his balance. I thought that's a great point. He looked incredible to me. I mean, that burst of speed down the sideline towards the end of the game. I mean, people, man, you can't sleep. It's like what can't Gus do? And then J.K. Dobbins, man, I put a note up here. Just please, Ravens, unleash J.K. Dobbins. This guy he looks like he's playing a different gear. You see those guys, and I feel like that's what separates every great player in the league is that explosiveness, and he has that explosiveness like crazy. I mean, that's what Odell Beckham had when he's with the Giants. What's looks like he's lacking now with Cleveland, even before the injury. It's that explosiveness. Certain guys have it to where they just explode out of cuts, out of everything. They jump. Tyreek, I mean, he just looks like he has that next level explosiveness than any of the backs. I mean, although Gus looked awfully explosive today, he definitely looked like the most explosive of our backs. But even Ingram, coming off COVID, being the older guy, not having a great year, I thought he looked good in this game. It is nice to see all the backs doing well. Other than Justice, of course, but then also Lamar running the ball. I mean, he was phenomenal today. Obviously, feeling good, feeling no after effects of COVID, so that's nice to see. But yeah, just from the running backs, Gus and Dobbins today, maybe the best we've seen them all year.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it will be interesting to see what because once again, Gus only 7 carries. Dobbins, how many carries did he end up with?
Dobbins ended up with 11 for 71.
11. So between the two, 18 carries. I mean, Lamar had a lot of carries, but to me, I want more. And as much as I love Mark, I hope, because we saw the 3 of them in there today, and it wasn't a problem because everybody was running, everybody was eating today. But against a team like the Browns, where we really got to be on top of our game, how much do we need to wedge a Mark in there? I hope that doesn't turn into a negative, because, like you said, that the combination of those two, I mean, it's undeniable at this point, right? They did it against Steelers the first time we played them. Today it looked easy. I mean, it just looked like it was too easy for the both of them. So definitely interesting to see what will happen there in the future.
Yeah, now I want to move over to the defensive side of the ball, because I thought they had moments where, and it's a lot like the offensive side. They had moments where they played really well, but also the Cowboys were able to move the ball quite well on some drives, especially early on. One guy I want to point out, Patrick Queen. I mean, man, he had a day. He had a day where sometimes you scratch your head, and then other times you're like, wow, because that interception he made, picking it up off the turf after Brandon Williams really, I mean, bats the ball up in the air, gives him the opportunity to do so. But Queen still had to make the play, picks it up off the turf, and a fantastic play. Look later on like he maybe carried a guy out of his zone a little bit too far and left his zone wide open for some completions. But up and down day. But for a young guy, a rookie linebacker who's really learning on the job because he didn't play much in college, I thought it was a good game for Queen. Excellent play. I mean, anytime you make a play like that, a game-changing type interception, I guess you can say you had a good game. But yeah, what'd you think about Queen?
Yeah, same here. I think, like you said, there was some relative inconsistency there, but I am grateful that it's all relative. In comparison to Van Der Esch, I feel a lot better about Queen and our young guy moving forward. So all I'll say is I have no complaints.
Okay.
Because Van Der Esch was running around like a kid that lost his parents at McDonald's in the playground. I mean, it was bad. And I thought, like you said, the play, man, how many middle linebackers are athletic enough to make that catch?
Yeah, man.
I mean, oh my gosh, it was just incredible. So,
well, I think Ford we saw later on, but we'll get to that later.
That's true. My goodness. So I was happy about that. And then, speaking of defensively, we kind of touched on this, but the Monstars are back.
They're back.
We're almost fully healthy on the defensive line. Now we only got, if I'm not mistaken, we only got one sack today.
Yep, Jihad.
Right, Jihad Ward. But the last guy that we're missing from the crew is Judon, and hopefully we'll have him.
He looked missed today, Jimmy.
You're right. You are absolutely right. Because Ngakoue needs a running mate. That is for sure. He needs a running mate. How many? I mean, a lot of
it looks like. Look, maybe it wasn't just Judon. Maybe. Because look, I think a lot of people were expecting when Ngakoue came here that all of a sudden, wow, we got a guy that even if you double him, he can get to your quarterback. And then certainly it helps to have Judon opposite him, but also shows that maybe even without, you need two is basically what you need. You can't just have one guy that can get to the quarterback that the offense can focus on. So yeah, hopefully we can get him back because, man, I'll tell you what, that's one of my notes. The pass rush did not impress me today. Jihad Ward came in. He was jacked up when he got that sack. Looks like he maybe wanted some more playing time, and maybe he deserves it after that performance because, man, I didn't see – Andy Dalton looked awfully comfortable back there, Jimbo.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I was going to mention is that, the Monstars are back, but, as far as getting to the pass rusher, now the big guys on the inside definitely had some tackles for loss, whether it's Wolf, Williams, or even Campbell, but applying pressure to the quarterback, yeah, that's a concern for us defensively. I'm interested to see how that goes moving forward because we want to get Baker and all these other guys, but obviously the game coming up, we want to get Baker seeing ghosts and tap dancing back there. So there's got to be some things that we've got to change to get
especially because their offensive line for Dallas is not great.
I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah. So the fact that they weren't able to put consistent pressure on Dalton is a problem for me. And I hope that they can get that fixed. And maybe that, a lot of that defensive front was on the COVID list. So maybe that some of those bigger guys, you mentioned the bigger guys show a little bit more after effects. And that could be the case. And maybe next week they bounce back. And also, but you know what I find interesting? One guy I want to call out on the defensive front is the guy who I feel like played the most 4 days ago or 5 days ago when they played last. And that's Derek Wolfe. I mean, this guy was a one-man wrecking crew a few days ago. When Calais and Brandon were both out, they're back, and he was still the wrecking crew. I mean, this guy was everywhere. He was making he led our team in tackles. He had 9 total tackles, Jimbo.
And did they have tackles for loss on there?
Yeah, he had one. It says he only has 1 tackle for loss. I'd like to see that get adjusted to at least 2 by tomorrow, but we'll see. But still, the fact that Derek Wolfe leads your team in tackles, that's pretty darn impressive. And I think that's why Ezekiel Elliott was only able to, would he muster 77 yards on 18 carries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's so underrated, and I think, he goes under the radar throughout the league. But yeah, he was everywhere. You're absolutely right. I feel like he was consistently in the backfield. If he wasn't making the play himself, he was disrupting the play enough, to blow it up. And I mean, that was absolutely, you know what, this was going to be my note in the goal line. What in the goal line? in a series where they had like 5 or 6 or whatever. They're on the one, they went down to the.
Oh yeah.
And there was one play where Zeke bounced off of, if you saw first, Ngakoue was there, but he shed Ngakoue, and then he squared up with Fort, and he was leaning Fort backwards, and so that's when he spun, and then he met Derek Wolfe, and I was like, nah,
night.
Yeah. So that was awesome to me, just to see him hit this wall, and Zeke is a force to stop.
Oh,
And
yeah,
Derek Wolfe
horse,
was
man.
not having it. That was awesome. Super underappreciated up there. I was really happy to see Derek Wolfe make an impact.
Yeah,
Now,
I thought
the other
he
thing.
played well.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I thought you mentioned another guy who I thought played pretty well, and that's Fort. He kind of got robbed, Jimmy, because LJ Fort picked off Andy Dalton in the back of the end zone, got a knee down. People can say that ball hit the ground. The ball is, allowed to hit the ground if it's under the player's control. It certainly was under LJ Fort's control. And it was, I was a little frustrated with Harbaugh for not throwing the challenge flag there. Clearly, Dallas got to the line of scrimmage quickly. They knew it was a tight call. They got the snap off, and they end up scoring a touchdown a few plays later after a Chuck Clark interference call, which was quite questionable in the end zone as well. But what are your thoughts on Harbaugh not challenging that play on a pretty clear interception?
Yeah, that was an interesting one to me too, because I feel like John is not one of those guys that gets caught up in the in a good way. What I'm saying is that he doesn't get caught up in the context of, okay, we're winning by 50, or statistically we have a 99% chance of winning this game. No, John plays it to the whistle all the time, every time, no matter what. This is the NFL. This is what it is at the end of the day. So I feel like he got kind of caught being a little too casual there.
Yeah.
And so that was uncharacteristic and surprised me. I would have liked to see him go after that challenge as well. But hopefully he learns from it. And I'll tell you what, LJ Fort's got to be one of the best contracts on the inside linebacker position in the NFL. I mean, man, guys make
no
it
doubt
because aside from that play, he saved that touchdown when Pollard went all the way down to our 30.
Yep. And also he had 2 tackles for loss in that game, Jimmy.
Yeah.
He had 5 total tackles. The guy is a force not only on the defense side, but he's always making plays on special teams. I mean, this guy, you're right. I mean, what an underrated key player for the Ravens, especially when you consider when those young guys are struggling. Queen and Harrison, they have games where they just don't. They put Ford in the game. Boom, he stabilizes the group and plays well. So yeah, shout out.
I'm gonna start calling him LJ Fort McHenry. Yeah.
Fort McHenry.
Yes, love it.
Anyway, all right. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the win. Big game coming up next week, guys. We got the Cleveland Browns next week. So, man, they who would have thought that this game would have this type of meaning this late in the season from both sides? They're not just playing a spoiler no more, Jimmy. They're looking to seal up their playoff spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna take some time here in a second to get in the playoff picture. And I kind of want to, as the season's coming to the tail end now, I want to spend some time there so you guys have clarity on it. But before we do, let's give our offensive and defensive players of the game.
Okay, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm going offensive. My player of the game is my man, Gus Edwards. 7 carries, 101 yards, and 8 bodies. That's how many he got today. I mean, my gosh, like you said, that play at the end, he wasn't going out of bounds. He was an immovable force. He was like, dude, you're not. I dare you, because you will get a fistful of whatever. I mean, my goodness. Gus Edwards.
That was impressive.
He had a great game. Love to see it. Like you said, there's not too much Gus can't do. So he gets my game ball offensively. What about you?
Well, I got to go his running mate, J.K. Dobbins. I thought he looked fast. He looked explosive. I want to see more of him. He goes 11 for 71 and a touchdown. And man, I thought he was this close to breaking that one for a much longer gain than he did. He just got shoestring tackled. So, I want to see more of him. I want to see more of him and Gus in particular, even though I still love Mark Ingram. What about defense?
Yeah, really quickly though, this was really funny to me when Dobbins, he ran outside to the left and he was going so fast. He didn't really get hit or anything, but where he ended up going out of bounds.
Oh yeah.
And he was like upset about it. Was like he was going so fast that he almost forced himself.
His momentum took him out of bounds.
He's like he's trying to stop himself.
It's like a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. No, but he's awesome to watch run. Defensively, You talked a lot about Derek Wolfe, but I want to go with Brandon Williams. Had some big impact plays in this game, made such a difference coming back. No knock on Justin Ellis, but Brandon Williams is just a different breed. I mean, he had the tip, and that was a crucial point of the game. Had the tip pass that Queen picked off, but also had some stops in the red zone. Now I know on that particular drive where he had a couple stops, they ended up scoring the touchdown. But he also had a couple plays where he was in the backfield, had the play that should have been called for intentional grounding on Andy Dalton that wasn't, where he was all in his face and Dalton was just throwing it for dear life because he didn't want to get pancaked by Big Baby. And so anyway, my defensive player of the game, Brandon Williams, making a big impact from Big Baby.
Yeah, no doubt. He's one of those guys that his impact is hard to notice on the stat sheet, but if you watch the game, it's certainly there. Mine is Derek Wolfe for the reasons I said earlier. Led our team in tackles. I mean, man, what a signing and what a blessing the fallout or the falling through of the contract for Michael Brockers, the failed physical in the offseason, or they would have never had Derek Wolfe. And I would not trade Derek Wolfe right now for Michael Brockers, no doubt about it. So, yeah, that's my guy. That's my player of the game.
Yeah, that two good players. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. You guys let us know who your players of the game are, offensively and defensively. We'd like to know. And then aside from that, let's spend some time really quick and talk about the playoff picture. Glenn, I think you have some information up in front of you. I'm going to, I got a couple schedules in front of me as well as far as the folks that are in front of us. So why don't you provide us a little context?
Sure. As you know, the Ravens are third right now in the AFC North, but more importantly, you want to look at the AFC division or AFC conference because they added the extra wild card spots. So 7 teams from each conference will be making the playoffs. Of course, the 4 division leaders, which currently right now are the Steelers at 11-1, the Chiefs at 11-1, the Bills at 9-3, and the Colts at 8-4. So those right now are the 4 division leaders, and then the current wild card teams are the Browns at 9-3, the Dolphins at 8-4, and the Titans at 8-4. So the Ravens not in the game. You know, they still got some room to make up. Good news is some of these guys are still in the schedule. They still have to play the Browns coming up. I know that the Browns also have the Steelers to play later in the year, so that's going to be a tough one. The Bills have to play the Steelers, so there's still a lot that can go down. I think if the Ravens certainly win out, they have nothing to worry about. But look, I mean that Browns game's a whole lot tougher. They got the Giants game, who are right now on a 5-game win streak, so not guaranteed down the stretch. But if they are able to pull out an undefeated stretch down the end here, I do think that they will be able to squeak into the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think from this point, if we lose to the Browns, it's going to be. I mean, our margin for error is already so thin at this point that it's going to be really tricky for us to get in. Just to give you guys an idea, of course, the folks that are in front of us, and you got the Dolphins, the Colts, and then of course the Browns. And I think all of them have a tougher schedule than us. But you think about the team like the Dolphins next week of the Chiefs, then they got the Patriots, then they got the Raiders, then they got the Bills. All of those teams are either in the hunt. Yeah, I mean, the only team that's you got 2 of them in the hunt with the Patriots and the Raiders. The Bills and the Chiefs are comfortably in the playoffs at this point. And so that's a brutal schedule. I'm hoping that they'll, at the very best, they could go 2-2, but they could lose all 4 of those games very easily. Absolutely. I mean, very easily. I think the only game they'll be favored in, maybe the Patriots game, maybe the Raiders
not
game.
Nowadays.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be iffy. I'm interested to see what that line is. Just to give you a little bit more, the Colts, of course, we have the tiebreaker with, and they got the Raiders. Man, we're going to be doing a lot of rooting for the Raiders here coming up. They got the Raiders. They got the Texans. They got Pittsburgh. They got Jacksonville. And of course, just to point out, other than Pittsburgh, Jacksonville and Houston and the Texans are both in their division. Division games are always tricky. It doesn't really matter what your record is. So just something to keep in mind. And then, of course, last but not least, the Browns. You got the Browns and our matchup coming up next Monday night. Really excited to get into that. But they still got the Giants, who, like you said, are on a 5-game win streak. The Jets is a gimme. But then at the end of the season, they ended with Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is going to want to keep fighting and winning because they want that number 1 spot.
Yep, that number 1 spot is the only seed that will be getting a first round bye. The number 2 seed now forced to play in the first round. So, absolutely, the fact that the Steelers and Chiefs are tied at 11-1 means that they're likely not going to be able to rest any players in Week 17. Which, I mean, some fans may be happy to hear that after they saw what the Ravens, what happened to the Ravens after resting most of their key starters in Week 17 last year. Did not
Really
end
quickly,
well.
Glenn. Really quickly, I can see it now. You know what's going to happen, right?
What's
First
that?
round, Ravens, Steelers. I can just feel it.
Take 3? Oh, I hope so.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
ready.
oh
Can't
man,
wait.
I'm so excited.
Look,
That's
as Bart says, can't wait. You know what I'm saying?
awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, let us know what
But
you guys think of the game. Were you guys encouraged? Did you think this was a good win? Were you impressed, or did you have some concerns coming out of this game? Let us know your thoughts, and be on the lookout. We'll be having Jeff Risden in to talk Browns, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
see ya.